Welcome back to episode 3 of Tooling and Converting Solutions, Your Path to Success. You have a much better idea of the great number of tooling options available to you, the essential role tooling plays in the success of your converting operations, and securing repeat customers for the long haul. We wrapped up our last episode by sharing a customer story related to the role tooling plays in your operations and also touched on the topic of this episode, budgeting for your tooling. If you recall, the customer went as far as providing us enough information to begin forming a picture of the costs associated with using commodity-level suppliers for essential components to their process. We have arrived at the topic of price versus cost, which is truly the elephant in the room. Do you recall my comments about what happens if this topic, price versus cost, does not have a place at the table in your operational meetings? If it does not, the decision of what to buy and from whom will be decided by price and convenience. The reason this topic is so interesting is because it is where the opportunity exists to do something different, something more productive, and something remarkable in making the improvements you are pursuing, focusing on cost rather than price. When we explore cost of tooling versus price with our customers, we find this discussion challenging due to many factors, like owners are typically disconnected because their tooling spend is insignificant and the expense is not a priority. Also, there always seems to be a lack of cost data available for when tooling does not perform. For example, labor, materials, downtime, shipping expenses, etc. Your staff, controlling the decision of whom to buy dies from, don't feel the pain of inferior tooling, but they believe tooling is a major expense for your company. As a decision maker, you see the pain when you see the P&Ls. Your production managers feel the pain when their efficiencies are not as good as they can be. And your operators most certainly feel the pain when jobs don't run like they should, and your customer feels the pain when their product is delayed or incorrect. Let's continue exploring price versus cost perceptions. We hear these comments on a regular basis from the folks in charge of ordering your dies. Our customers are reluctant to spend dollars on tooling for their projects. Tooling costs are a considerable expense for our company. Our process requires multiple quotes to be gathered for tooling. We have found these statements are the perceptions that generally result in decisions being made to purchase dies based on price or convenience, instead of the tooling solution that most benefits your company. Let me tell you a story from a recent customer visit that summarizes what I'm talking about. We have a customer with a buyer by the name of Ron, who manages all the tooling purchases. We build a handful of dies per year for their most challenging application. He was sharing his process for making decisions on steel rule die purchases. Ron's focus was the convenience of his local supplier. He informed me that they are using their local source for the majority of their daily die orders and Mathias for only the most challenging applications. Although the local guys don't build dies to your quality standards, he said, for our everyday dies, they are generally less expensive, they generally perform fine, and the shipping is less expensive. And if something goes wrong, they pick it up or we can drop it off and the die can be fixed and back the next day. I asked Ron, what if it's a line down situation for you or your customer? He told me they can send the die with one of their employees to their local die shop and they'll fix it while they wait. If they need more time, the employee can drop it off on the way home and pick it up in the morning on their way back to work. I pressed Ron a little on the line down situation. His answer, we just plug in another job while we're waiting. We have no shortage of jobs waiting in line. It's clear that Ron is shifting cost to his cutting operations. He doesn't grasp the costs associated with not getting it right the first time. Regardless, he's in charge of the die spend. Do you have any Rons managing your tooling spend? We know that if an incorrectly built die is returned to us for any reason and needs to be replaced, Our cost is 4x the original die cost. Assuming we're on the same page, it wouldn't matter if the die was free. If the die is wrong, you feel it, and your customer is certainly going to feel it. Ron's mindset is a common theme we encounter when we are meeting with clients and prospects utilizing local sources for convenience and price. Let's discuss this from your perspective. We asked you to come prepared to review your tooling spend, so you should have your annual tooling spend right in front of you. How many of you knew what it was prior to doing your homework? Are any of you surprised at your spend? How many of you now believe tooling is a major expense for your company? If tooling is not a big expense for your company, then what is the reason you're not using the best supplier? Considering what you spend on tooling, we understand why you empower your staff to manage this spend. It is commendable. However, as essential as tooling is to the success of your converting operations, the reason you're joining us for this journey, the Rons of your operation need your directive on whom to purchase your tooling from and why. Your directive to the Rons may sound like, by partnering with a solutions provider, we're gaining an extension of our operations. We will have access to an experienced engineering team to help us achieve the improvements we are pursuing. We can afford to partner with the best because we will reduce our costs by more than we'll ever be able to squeeze out of the price of a die. Now, let's talk about the significance of your tooling spends. First, let's do some math to get on the same page relative to the expense of steel rule dies. Fun fact, the industry average price of a steel rule die today is $365. If you order 150 dies per year, this calculates to about $55,000 for an annual die spend. Your takeaway, regardless of the size of your company, your tooling spend is too insignificant for tooling to ever be the reason for losing an opportunity or a customer. We're going to show you how to make sure this never happens. Fun fact number 2, the average time our clients spend preparing and sending steel rule die RFQs, reviewing them, filing them, entering them into your system, making the purchase decision from whom to buy, etc., is about 30 minutes each. This can be even higher if there are technical questions or you are performing design work preparing the files to be sent. If you still have your tooling spend in front of you, let's walk through a quick exercise. Question: could you remove quoting dies or even the price of tooling from your customer conversations and your process altogether? If your bid to order win percentage is the typical 30 to 40%, in this case study, this would mean you are estimating approximately 450 dies each year. Each die RFQ requires 30 minutes to process. That's 225 hours of someone's time and your company's resources spent chasing steel rule die pricing. In the homework assignment, you calculated your average die spend. This is your tooling budget. I suspect it doesn't change much year over year. You now have options. You get to decide when and if to charge your customers for tooling. If you are line iteming your tool charges to your customer, consider ending this practice. Don't give your customer another reason to critique your bid proposal or take their business elsewhere. Manage your tooling budget more creatively. Could it be an overhead expense, a cost of goods sold, or even possibly reallocated to a depreciative expense? Don't let your tooling budget get in the way of winning an opportunity or cause you to lose a customer. Changing the way you manage your spend will give you the freedom to invest in a capable supplier with the skills to support your improvement objectives. Remove the expense from your bidding process altogether. Your estimators and buyers will probably thank you, and these resources can now be redirected to your growth objectives. Knowing your die spend, you now have the information you need to more effectively manage your tooling spends. Making these changes will require your directive to see them through. Once you have implemented these changes, we want to hear from you. Send us your success stories so we can add you to our no-quote Wall of Fame. Thank you for your time today, and we are looking forward to seeing you for our next episode. Make sure your interviews are completed before you watch the next episode. We will show you just how easy it is to guarantee you'll receive proven tooling and converting solutions that you need with each die order you place.